Recently, we've been exploring some wizard tactica for Neverwinter Nights, and in this vlog, I want to ask the question. I want to focus on a specific feat, combat casting, because certainly as a mage, there's a couple of different ways to build out the feats, but with recommended character creation, that first click, it wants you to take combat casting. Now, Neverwinter Nights is built on the D&D 3.5, 3.0, 3.x engine, and when you're within a certain radius, we have attacks of opportunity, we have dodge and mobility, but also when you begin to cast a spell, there's a chance that not only will it be disrupted, but you're casting it at a penalty, and that represents kind of going back to advanced Dungeons & Dragons and kind of old school D&D where you're moving your arms around and tracing these arcane symbols and invoking the magic. If that gets interfered with, then it's not going to pop off. And interestingly, that in the past, mages couldn't wear armor at all, because if there was any interference in the exact navigation and plotting of these kind of magic hand symbols, the entire spell wouldn't work. And what we see in Neverwinter Nights is technically you can wear armor, whether you're building those feats or take a dip into fighter to open all three up, but there's a chance of spell failure. And I feel like that's a little bit more realistic if you want to kind of build a battle mage type build, and is it worth it? And naturally certain armors with enhancements have a less of arcane failure, but casting spells in combat is a little bit challenging. Now, of course, being a combat-based game, if we look at tabletop D&D 3.5, 3.0, 3.x, it's the same. But usually in tabletop, a mage is hanging back. You've got some hirelings, you've got other NPCs, you've got some summons, you've got the party members, you've got a lot of people in front of you preventing those monsters from getting to you. So combat casting or making concentration checks doesn't happen as much. In Neverwinter Nights, well, you do have a summons, you can have your pet familiar, you can have a henchman, and then usually you can have one more through a clicky or maybe another character class like Shadow Dancer, but essentially it's you. Most of the game, most of the quests, most of the adventures is you navigating it with multiple opponents fighting you. They're going to catch you with sneak attack, they're going to catch you with the attack of opportunities, they're going to catch you with that concentration check in order to cast the spell. The penalty for it is -4. So combat casting gets you to 0. It doesn't give you a bonus, it gets you to 0. Taking it or not? Well, more and more, if I look at an optimal build for a mage, I really want to jack up my DC levels of spells. I really want to get spell penetration, jack that up. I really want to get arcane defense and start building that up with concentration. I want to get a high spellcraft. I want to be able to counterspell and do all this other stuff. At first glance, at the lower and mid levels, based on your intelligence and your feats, it looks like you get a lot of stuff. But as the spells stack and you get more powerful, you really want to maximize that meta, almost taking a power gamer type approach. You need to do that to survive as a mage. So all of a sudden, the feats, especially if I'm playing a human with bonus feats, it looks like you have a lot, but you really don't. So more and more, I find myself not taking combat casting. And at the lower levels, just kind of deal with it, level 1 to 3, play a little bit more conservative. Usually, of course, the lower levels, you're fighting less challenging monsters that can be taken out in 1 hit or 2 hits, and certainly your summons and your henchmen can utilize that. But given that your intelligence goes up and given you get a lot of skill points, I feel like I can start taking concentration and then jack it up that way and save the combat casting feat. So more and more, I'm kind of leaning towards, do you really need combat casting? If you kind of plot it out long term, you don't need it. Now, on a sidebar, I think that this is a feat that mages should get for free. Kind of like a fighter. The understanding is arms and armor, so you've got all basic and martial weapons. If you want exotics, that would require some more training. You've got all light, medium, heavy armor. That just kind of makes sense. As a mage, I would think you would come with combat casting by default, at least a wizard that is actively studying this. Sorcerer, bard, maybe they'd have to take it because they have to learn it along the way. But I feel like it should be a free feat, kind of like the monk gets some free feats. But that's not how the 3.x engine is, and that's not how Neverwinter Nights is. But the question is, building an optimal mage, combat casting, yes or no, and doing it from there.